You've probably thought your relationship was stable, but do you really know everything about the person you're with? Imagine hearing a conversation that suddenly shatters everything you believed in. What happens when you discover that the person you love doesn't see you as exclusive like you thought? The main character, after overhearing a conversation between his girlfriend and her friend at a restaurant, uncovers a painful truth. His girlfriend bluntly states that she is keeping her options open and does not consider him her official boyfriend. This statement shakes him to the core and marks the beginning of the actions that follow. So, what would you do if you were in this situation? How would you deal with such betrayal? Let's see what I chose to do in this case. After overhearing the conversation, I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My girlfriend had just confirmed what I had been suspecting for some time, but hearing her actually say it out loud hit me like a punch to the gut. She was keeping her options open, meaning I was just another person in her life, not someone she was committed to. And the worst part? She was saying this right in front of her friend, as if it didn't matter at all. I stood there for a moment, stunned. My mind was racing, trying to process what had just happened. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. I had always been there for her, supported her, and trusted her. I thought we were building something real, but now I saw how wrong I was. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to just sit there and take this. I couldn't let her get away with treating me like this. In that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her right away, not with the kind of anger that was boiling inside me. No, I would do something far more deliberate, something that would make her understand that I was not someone she could manipulate. I turned and walked away from the table, heading toward my car. The whole time, I could hear her laughing and talking to Maya, completely unaware of what was about to happen. I grabbed her purse from the passenger seat of my car and made my way back to the restaurant. As I approached the table, I felt a strange sense of calm. I wasn't furious anymore. Instead, I was focused, calculating. I dropped her purse right next to her plate without saying a word. She looked up at me, her smile faltering when she saw my face. "Keep them open," I said, my voice cold, my tone firm. I turned and walked out, leaving her confused and speechless. That's when the first call came. It was exactly 11 minutes later, I know because I was sitting in my car, checking my bank account. I had already made up my mind to take immediate action. We had a joint savings account, one we had opened for our future apartment, but after what I had just heard, I couldn't leave that money in there. I initiated a withdrawal request for my contributions, all $8,734.62. The bank's policy required both of our signatures for any transfers over $5,000, but I knew I could freeze the account and request an audit. So, I did just that. The phone buzzed in my hand. "Babe, my card just got declined." "What's going on?" Her voice was full of confusion and panic, but I wasn't moved. "Which card?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "The joint account card." I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "Oh, that's frozen, pending an audit." I could hear her trying to process what I had just said, but I wasn't going to make it easy. I requested a full transaction history. I let that sink in for a moment. "Why would you do that?" she asked, her voice now a little more defensive. "Because I just found out I'm not actually in an exclusive relationship." "Seems like a good time to review our financial arrangement," I replied, my tone cold and final. She tried to brush it off, calling it just girl talk, but I wasn't buying it. "Cool. Use your personal card for dinner," I said, and hung up. That's when I made my next move. I opened our shared Google Calendar and deleted myself from everything. The Palm Springs trip we were supposed to take next month? Gone. The concert tickets I had bought for her favorite band? Gone. Her cousin's wedding, where I was supposed to be her +1? Gone. Every single plan we had made was wiped out. There was no future anymore. At least, not with her. My phone was buzzing again. 30 minutes later, she called. Then, the texts started flooding in. 23 calls that night, 47 texts. I read every single one, but I didn't respond to any of them. It was clear that this wasn't going to be over quickly, and I was prepared for the fallout. But I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset. I had already made up my mind, and nothing was going to change it. I had one goal: to make it clear that I was done. I was no longer willing to be manipulated. This was my life, and I wasn't going to let her ruin it any longer. The days that followed felt like a whirlwind. I had no intention of letting things slide, especially after everything that had happened. She thought she could get away with playing games, with stealing from me and my company. But I wasn't going to let that happen. At first, I thought it was just a matter of clearing things up with the bank and getting the money back. But then I realized that the situation was much worse than I had originally thought. It wasn't just about money, it was about trust, respect, and how far she was willing to go to deceive me. It was about the things she was willing to steal and the lines she was willing to cross. That's when the real bombshell hit. A call came from Derek, a buddy of mine who worked at a competing company. He seemed a bit hesitant, but I could tell something was off. "Dude, weird question," he said. "Is Sophia your girlfriend?" I frowned, already sensing where this was going. "Yeah, why?" "She's been hitting up our head of marketing pretty hard on LinkedIn," Derek said. "She's been sending our company all kinds of marketing strategies that look suspiciously like insider information. My boss asked me to do some digging, and I thought you might want to know." My stomach sank. The pieces were falling into place, and they weren't pretty. I had trusted her, shared my life with her, and now she was trying to take advantage of that trust in the worst way possible. I immediately thought back to a few weeks ago when she borrowed my laptop for a presentation. I had assumed she was just having trouble with her own device, but now it was clear what had really happened. I had remote access enabled on all my devices, including my laptop. And when I checked the activity logs, everything became clear. She had accessed our shared drive and downloaded 17 files that contained proprietary client data. The log showed everything. The timestamps, the file names, even the USB device she had used to save them. I was stunned. I had been played, not just in my personal life but in my professional life as well. This wasn't just a betrayal of our relationship, it was a betrayal of everything I had worked for. I called Derek back immediately. "Can you forward me those LinkedIn messages?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Already done, man," he said. "This is messed up." The evidence was overwhelming. I had the logs, the timestamps, and now Derek had confirmed that she had been trying to sell proprietary information to competitors. I wasn't going to let this slide. I needed to act fast. I gathered everything: emails, screenshots of the messages, the evidence of her accessing company data, and made my way to my boss, Janet. When I walked into her office, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This wasn't just a personal issue anymore. It was about protecting the company, and I wasn't going to let Sophia get away with this. "I need to talk to you about a potential data breach," I said, my voice calm but firm. Janet's face turned pale when I showed her the logs. "How did you discover this?" she asked, her voice tight with concern. "It was flagged by their IT department," I explained. "They recognized the information we were working with. They reached out to me because they traced the stolen data back to Sophia. We both knew this was serious. I wasn't just dealing with a personal betrayal anymore. This was corporate espionage. The files she had downloaded weren't just for some side hustle, they were critical pieces of our business. Client analytics, campaign data, ROI reports, information that could destroy us if it got into the wrong hands." "We need to get legal involved," Janet said, her voice urgent. "We can't let this go unchecked." The next few days were a blur of meetings, legal consultations, and preparing for the fallout. Sophia's company launched their own investigation after mine sent them a formal notice about the data theft. The whole situation was messy, and it seemed to get worse with every passing hour. Meanwhile, Sophia kept calling, sending texts, trying to explain herself. I didn't answer her. I didn't want to hear her excuses. But eventually, she reached out through email. The tone was different this time, genuine, even tearful. She claimed she had been under a lot of pressure, that she never meant for things to get this far. "I never meant for this to happen," she wrote. "Please, you have to tell them it was a misunderstanding. I could lose everything. I wasn't buying it." The truth was clear to me now. "How exactly is this a misunderstanding?" I replied. "You stole from my company. That's not a mistake. That's theft. And what about us? What about the fact that you've been leading me on while playing both sides? You think I'm going to cover for you after everything you've done?" Her response was a feeble attempt at justification. "I only took the files to help with my job search. Everyone does it. Everyone doesn't steal proprietary data from their boyfriend's company, Sophia," I shot back. "This is beyond a mistake. You knew exactly what you were doing." Her tone shifted, but I could tell it wasn't sincere. "What about us?" she asked, her voice softening. "What we had? We could still work this out. I could make it all go away. Just delete the posts, tell your company it was a misunderstanding, and we can move past this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was offering me a way out at the cost of my integrity. I knew then that I couldn't give her the satisfaction of thinking she could walk away without facing the consequences of her actions. "How about you face the consequences of your own actions for once?" I replied. "I'm not going to cover for you anymore, Sophia. You've crossed the line, and now you'll have to deal with it." A week later, Sophia was placed on administrative leave. Her company conducted their investigation and terminated her for violating their code of conduct and her NDA. They made her sign an agreement to never use or share the stolen data, and she was banned from working with any of our clients for 2 years. It didn't end there. I still had to deal with the financial side of things. The bank required both of us to sign off on closing the joint account. I went to the branch, and the meeting was just as awkward as you can imagine. She tried to claim that she was entitled to half, but the transaction history told a different story. Every deposit had come from my account, and her contributions had been minimal. She had transferred exactly $50 twice, followed by withdrawals of $200 each time. The bank manager raised an eyebrow at that, but in the end, I got the funds. All $8,734.62 were returned to me. It's been about a month since everything went down. The initial shock has worn off, and now I'm left with the aftermath. And let me tell you, dealing with the consequences wasn't easy. The legal stuff dragged on for weeks. There were meetings with lawyers, discussions about the best course of action, and negotiations I was barely involved in. But in the end, everything settled down. Sophia's company didn't want the negative publicity, but they had no choice but to fire her. She was terminated for violating their code of conduct, and they made her sign an agreement stating she would never use or share the stolen data again. She was also banned from working with any of our clients for 2 years. As for me, I didn't want to drag it out any longer than necessary. It wasn't just about the money or the data, it was about principle. But even after all that, the situation wasn't over. The bank required both our signatures to close the joint account, which meant we had to meet in person. The awkwardness of that meeting was unbearable. I don't think either of us knew what to say. She tried to claim she was entitled to half of the account's balance, but the bank's records told a different story. Every deposit had come from my account, and her contributions were minimal, 2 transfers of $50 each, followed by withdrawals of $200. The bank manager raised an eyebrow when she made her claim. It was clear to everyone in that room who had been carrying the weight of the account. After a brief moment of hesitation, she signed the documents. The money was released to me, $8,734.62. I won't lie, it felt good to have that financial burden lifted. But it wasn't just the money that mattered. What I realized through this whole ordeal was that I had allowed myself to be manipulated for far too long. I had overlooked the red flags, ignored the inconsistencies, and allowed someone to use me for their own gain. And now, it was over. The hardest part wasn't the legal stuff or the financial settlement, it was the emotional toll. I had trusted her. I had let her into my life, shared my hopes, my dreams, and even my future plans. And in return, she had taken advantage of me. But the most painful thing of all was the realization that I had ignored the signs. I had convinced myself that the love and the care I was offering were enough, that things would work out. But they didn't. As time passed, I began to see this situation for what it really was. It wasn't just about Sophia's betrayal, it was about my own growth. I had allowed myself to be manipulated because I hadn't set the right boundaries. I had let someone take more than they were giving. And the truth is, I should have seen it sooner. But that's part of growing up, isn't it? Learning from your mistakes and using those lessons to build a better version of yourself. I can't change what happened, but I can control how I move forward. And what I've learned through all of this is invaluable. I've learned that my time, my trust, and my love are not things I should give away lightly. I've learned that I deserve to be with someone who respects me, who values me, and who shares the same goals and values. And most importantly, I've learned that I am enough on my own. I don't need someone else to validate my worth or make me feel like I'm not good enough. After everything was settled, I took some time for myself. I focused on my work, spent more time with friends who had supported me throughout this whole ordeal, and began to invest in myself. I've also started therapy, not because I regret what happened, but because I want to understand why I allowed it to go on for so long. I want to make sure that I never make the same mistake again. It hasn't been easy, but I can honestly say that I'm in a better place now. I've learned to recognize the signs of manipulation, to trust my instincts, and to stand up for myself when I need to. And that's the kind of strength I'll carry with me moving forward. Sophia has reached out once or twice since everything went down. She sent me a long email apologizing, saying she had been under a lot of pressure, and that she never meant for things to get this far. She asked for forgiveness, but I didn't respond. My lawyer advised against any contact, and honestly, I had nothing to say to her. What's the point in trying to repair something that was never really built on solid ground to begin with? I've seen her social media go quiet since the incident. Her LinkedIn still lists her as a marketing consultant, but I've heard from mutual friends that she's been applying for jobs out of state. Word travels fast in our industry, and it's clear that the fallout from her actions is still following her. As for me, I'm not holding on to any anger anymore. I'm not looking back. Life goes on, and I've got a future to build. A week ago, I ran into Maya at the grocery store. You know, the friend who had laughed when Sophia said she was keeping her options open. She approached me, her face a mix of embarrassment and guilt. She had heard about everything that had happened, and it was clear she was struggling. She told me she had lost her job, her apartment, and that she was moving back in with her parents. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice quiet. I didn't realize things were that serious. I didn't feel sorry for her. She had known the truth about Sophia, and yet she had laughed it off. She had been complicit, in a way, by enabling Sophia's behavior. "Sounds like the consequences of your own actions," I told her, my voice steady. "You could have said something, but you didn't. Now you're dealing with the fallout too." I didn't say anything else. There was nothing more to be said. As for me, I'm moving on. I've got a new outlook on life, and I'm determined not to make the same mistakes again. I'm focusing on what matters, my work, my friendships, and my personal growth. Sophia may have destroyed something that wasn't built on solid ground, but in the process, she helped me build something stronger. I've learned my worth, and I won't ever let anyone take that away from me again. As time has passed, I find myself reflecting on everything that happened. The anger, the betrayal, and the chaos, all of it has settled into something much quieter now. I don't feel regret anymore. What I feel is clarity. I've learned so much from this experience, lessons I never would have expected to come from such a painful situation. But here I am, stronger and wiser than before. The biggest lesson I've taken away from all of this is how important it is to stand up for myself. In the past, I allowed others to take advantage of me because I was afraid of rocking the boat or creating conflict. I convinced myself that I could overlook the small things, the signs of manipulation and dishonesty. But now I know better. I've learned how to recognize when someone is taking advantage of my kindness, and I've learned how to set boundaries to protect myself. This experience has shown me that I don't have to tolerate disrespect or deceit. I'm no longer that person who sits back and lets others walk all over me. I'm someone who knows my worth, and I'm not afraid to defend it. As I move forward, I carry these lessons with me. I know that life isn't always easy, and it won't always be fair. But I also know that I have the strength to face whatever comes my way. I'm no longer afraid of the hard truths or the difficult conversations. I'm stronger now because of what I've been through, and I won't let anyone take that away from me. If this story has helped you reflect on your own relationships and understand the value of self-respect, I encourage you to take a moment to think about the boundaries you set in your life. And if you feel like this message resonates with you, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you've handled similar situations. This story isn't just about a painful betrayal, it's about personal growth. It's about moving past the hurt and finding balance in life again. I've learned that sometimes, the best way to heal is to walk away from what's toxic and focus on what makes you stronger. And that's exactly what I've done. I've found my balance again, and I'm ready for whatever comes next.